Top 5 Friday. Let's talk about my top 5 favorite flanker types. You've made it to J-ROYL. Congratulations. The ultimate Canadian, slightly obnoxious fragrance and fitness channel. For those of you who don't know what a flanker is in fragrances, it's essentially another variation of a certain fragrance. Most of the time it has the original's DNA, the original's scent profile, but it just has a bit of a twist. Moving on, my number 5 favorite flanker type is Sport. Probably one of the more basic flanker types. A sport flanker is usually a fresher variation of the original. Most sport fragrances happen to be appropriate for sporting events. Oftentimes they're pretty good when you're in an athletic environment. I tend to wear sport fragrances when it's warmer outside as well, because when it's warmer, you sweat, just like you sweat when you play sports. The reason sport flankers are number 5 is because of this guy right here. Although Luna Rossa Sport is a very, very good fragrance, it doesn't necessarily feel sporty to me. And there are a few other sport flankers that aren't very sporty at all. Sport flankers are most often the victims of false advertising. At number 5, sport flankers. My number 4 favorite flanker type is Fresh or Fresh. Although very similar to the sport flankers, the Fresh flankers do a much better job at creating a warm weather alternative to an existing fragrance. There are certain fragrances out there that smell really good, but you can't really pull for them in the warm weather because when your skin heats up, they'll become even sweeter than they already are, and they'll just become off-putting to the people around you and yourself too, man. Your Fresh flankers, Popeye Eau Fresh, or even Versace Man Eau Fresh, they're fantastic in the warm weather. The reason Fresh is number 4 on this list is because they are a little bit predictable. They're often aquatic and citrus. They're a little bit simplistic in their design. At number 4, Fresh. My number 3 favorite fragrance flanker is Intense / Extreme. It's almost always a good thing because it usually means that the fragrance is stronger, or it means that the fragrance is taken a totally different direction in a darker, spicier, sweeter place. I will say, of the extremes and intenses of my collection, Prada is awesome. Amber Pearl Homme Intense, L'Homme Intense, and Prada Luna Rossa Extreme are all fantastic. They're not just amped up versions of the original, they go in different directions. Although some people may be confused when they see the word intense, they'll just assume it's a stronger version of the original, but it's not. And that's why I like it. It's a new fragrance almost. It's just really cool to see what these fragrance companies can come up with and how much they can change the fragrance by even just introducing 1 or 2 extra notes. The only reason it's number 3 is because if you are expecting it to be like the original, you sometimes may be disappointed. At number 3, Intense / Extreme. My number 2 favorite flanker type is Ice. This is probably a bit of a surprise for you guys. Now, to the common person, an ice flanker just seems like another fresh, sport, aqua, tonic, but it's so much more than that. I find your ice / frozen flankers are the most versatile of those warm weather flanker types. There's 2 ways you can look at an ice fragrance. It has beautiful cooling properties that work really well in the warm weather, or it's icy and it matches the vibe of winter and fall and the cooler weather. Whether it's Armani Code Ice or La Nuit de l'Homme Frozen Cologne, or even Iceman by Mugler, they all seem to have this wonderful cooling property that is very, very unique. At number 2, Ice. And my number 1 favorite flanker type is Parfum. Some of you may saw it coming, and if you did, good for you, smarty pants. I love EDP flanker types because they tend to retain more of the original version's DNA. While intense and extreme versions are fun because you don't really know what to expect when you get them, the original's DNA is almost always present in the Parfum versions, but it just gives you an alternative. With this fragrance, it gives you a more mature option. It's a little more subtle in how it performs. It's not quite as bright. So if that suits you better, then you can get this fragrance instead of the EDT. With Dior's Parfum versions, it's a bit different because although it's definitely an iris-based fragrance, and there's a lot of similarities with this and the original Dior Homme, they really amp up the performance and they add leather. So it gives you a cold weather alternative for a more masculine man rather than a more metrosexual dude. But as you can see with Parfum versions, it's less of a wild card than the intense and the extreme. That's why I'm a big fan of the EDP flanker type. At number 1, Eau de Parfum. I personally like flankers because it gives you a nice variation of fragrances. And there are certain fragrances that you love the original, but you wish it just performed in different circumstances. And in that case, flankers are perfect. Love them or hate them, they're here to stay, so let's embrace them. All of our links to the Facebook group and Instagram are down below. And if you like what you see, then subscribe. What are some of your favorite flanker types? Peace. Now these two leather fragrances are no stranger to the fragrance community. Tom Ford's Tuscan Leather versus La Yukon Pour Homme by Rasasi. First of all, do they smell similar? Yeah, they are very similar. This is not a case of one was inspired.